Hello, everybody, and welcome to Chart Request Live. This is where you bring the tickers and we bring the charts. Today, I, Sam Gatlin, am joined by my esteemed colleague and co-host, Mr. Alfonso de Pablo, coming to us live from the great United Kingdom.
Yeah, that's right. How is everyone going these days?
Everything's great here. It's 82 degrees and sunny here in Kansas, so I have no complaints. A lot of stocks are rallying today. There's plenty to talk about. We have wars in the Middle East moving the commodities markets. It's not just speculative growth stocks that we're trading out here.
No, today's action, a lot of good stocks right there. I was, talking to Steve early this morning, and a lot of these names are looking good. And as you mentioned, Middle East it's moving. Crude oil and energy has been moving very wildly in the last couple of days, but also, giving us some opportunities. So yeah, that chart of crude oil, it's a good example. Recovering that former support, squeezing higher. It printed the best single week since October 2022. So it's a big deal.
I
Let's
was
see if
looking
it.
at the 3-day rate of change on the crude oil futures because it really was just a 3-day move. So I wanted to get a more accurate picture because I was doing some similar rate of change analysis as you. And so you said if you use the 1 week, it was the best week since October of 2022. But with the 3-day rate of change, which is what it really was, I was getting the best move since the peak here in March of 2022.
Very nice.
And that's right when all the Russia Ukraine stuff was beginning, and energy markets were euphoric. It was the end of a what was it, 2.25 2.25 year epic bull market in energy. Stocks like Alpha Medical Resources returned 20,000% from the low to high. It was historic.
It
So.
it was the best performing stock for a while. So
Yeah, it was. Yes, it was the biggest winner of the COVID crash. Was this coal stock AMR? I'll never forget that. I'll be on my deathbed talking to my grandkids about this Alpha Medical Resources that was ripping back when I
very
started my
it
trading
was
career.
crazy. Literally from 2 to 450.
Yeah, an
That's really
absolute
crazy.
monster. Yeah,
Yeah.
no doubt about it. Yeah, so let's switch gears, Alfonso. Talk about speculative growth. The ARC Innovation ETF here today, ripping another 4%, trying to complete the V. What are you thinking about this trade right now? I know you've been very bullish on the ASTS, which is having a great day today.
And it's keep going up, basically. It's
Yeah,
keep going up. I know you dropped a new freshly squeezed scan this morning. ASTS was on top of that list. And it's looking so good. It's a very heavily shorted name. I love the VWAPs, how you drop the VWAP from the ultimate lows from the prior ultimate highs from late last year, converging. And that was a classic big web pinch, right? And now price just explode higher. It's rocking higher. It's mooning, and now you can define a risk at around that 40 level, around right around the former highs. And I think this move it's only the beginning for something bigger in this stock.
so what you're offering here is one of the best stocks this entire bull market. This one went 19x from this low here in April to the peak in August. So it took 20 weeks to return 19x. And you're entering that and risking $1 here today. That's the kind of risk reward we have here. This one could literally, this is a space stock, so you can make a ton of jokes about how it's going to the moon and things like that. But I mean, seriously, that is the situation here. This one just went
Exactly.
19x, consolidated straight sideways for nearly a year, and now it's breaking out to new all-time highs.
And look, there are three groups right now that they're exploiting higher. The new nuclear names, the quantum
Yeah.
names, are the space stocks, in my opinion. So these names, look, they're going up. They're winning, and right now it's giving us huge opportunity. We have been in the ASTS calls for June, for late June, looking so good right now. This position after this explosive move. And if you want to play the common right now, I think maybe you can just define risk around that for the area. Even though that in the short term we have been a little bit overextended, a little bit overbought, but I think in a big movie it's already underway. So right now it's one of my favorite stocks, to be honest.
Totally. I love it. It's an interesting company too. It's like very similar to Starlink, Elon Musk's company, but they're actually like signing contracts with the big telecom companies, which Starlink is not doing. Starlink still requires you to have that hardware there so you can get the internet signal. But it would be much more convenient if I could just go over to Verizon or AT&T or T-Mobile and have them give me the internet connection to space. I don't want to do
Good.
that myself.
That's right.
So yeah, I love the speculative theme right now, Alfonso. You nailed it. What is it? It's rockets, nuclear, and quantum.
The
That's the
quantum.
hottest
Yeah.
trade right now. I love it.
And I don't care if they're, like scam or whatever, they are ripping higher.
Yeah,
And as long as you can define risk and control your risk, you're good with it. I'm good with it.
totally.
So,
This is the kind of market where you want to buy the scam stocks. Those are the best performing stocks.
right, exactly. Risk.
Fundamentals make no sense. The smartest people in
Mhm.
the world say this could never work. The most speculative things out there. That is what's leading this market higher.
Yeah. And you see it also in the short interest. And you have been working
Yeah,
on the fish list quiz for a few years. And we have seen it in different cycles, and this time is no different. So I like them, and I think ASTS. I think it's the best example of this theme.
totally. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned the short interest because speculative tech, the number one ETF for speculative tech is ARK Innovation. That just gives you such a wonderful picture of what's happening broadly in speculative growth and technology stocks in general. And that ETF has its highest short interest ever right now, as it's completing a massive base. I think there's just a lot of things happening right now. You on one hand you have that textbook bearish to bullish reversal pattern resolving, but then you have that extra juice on top with all that short interest. So
Yeah.
I love a lot of things about this trade right now, including the upside momentum. That's what I'm here for.
Exactly. It's a good combination. Bearish sentiment on the stock, a high share interest, and short-term momentum. That sparked this big moves higher. So
Totally. Yeah, Alfonso, what do you say we get into the mailbag? And
yeah, let's do it.
yeah,
Let's start with Gerber. He's asking us which one this miner is showing most relative strength and got the best looking chart. Let's see, HUT or Course or GLXY.
well, I already know the answer to that, and it's Coors. Coors
I know.
is my favorite Bitcoin mining stock. On this other screen, I'll pull up my stats for it. So Coors, ticker CORZ, is a $3.5 billion Bitcoin mining stock with 18% short interest, which is at an all-time high, and 3 days to cover. And how I like to mark this chart up, Alfonso, is with these Fibonacci extensions
Okay.
from this IPO. So it IPO'd back in, let's see, this was January 24th of 2024. and it got crushed on the IPO day. It fell, it looks like 50, a little over 55% peak to trough. So that was not a great start for the core scientific. But ever since then, it's been an absolute beast, especially relative to the Bitcoin miners broadly, because these companies. We mentioned it earlier in the show. We're in the type of environment where you want to own like the most speculative, crazy companies, and that's not really what they are. They're just bad businesses, Alfonso. They just dilute shareholders over and over and over again, and the stocks just are no good because of it. But Core Scientific is probably the best actor in that respect. They're not diluting their shareholders too much. There has been some of that, but it's nowhere to the extent that the other miners are at. And I love the relative strength too. So this one, off this April low of last year, it rallied 600% throughout the rest of the year. And it's had a little correction since then. And you're back at this 261.8 extension of this IPO decline. So I love getting long here and defining risk right there at 1170. And that's super actionable too, Alfonso. The stock's trading at 12 and dime right now. So
yeah, it's actionable. And what I like about this chart is that it already reclaimed, and it's been holding above that pivot from the all-time highs, right? So now the buyers are in control, and it's only a matter of how and where you define risk. And I think that a level of around 1170, the way you have marked it up, I think makes sense. That also that level act as resistance in July of last year. So I think it's a logical level to define risk. So above 1170, I think the path of the resistance is clearly higher. I think we can see 17, 18, and why not new all-time highs?
Yeah, totally. Especially if Bitcoin's breaking out above 110 on its way to 150. This one's probably not going to be in this range anymore. It's probably also going to be breaking out to new all-time highs.
Yeah, this one is a good vehicle, exactly. But also, always depends on Bitcoin. So Bitcoin 110, that's the big level. Even when we break out about 110, that you will get your signal there. So
totally. Yeah, that's the same level I have there. Alfonso, what do you say we get to something else in the mailbag? Of course, I see everybody in the chat here. We've got Wavy, we've got H-Chan, we've got Mr. Zerby, the usual crowd. We've got my brother Elijah in the chat. Shout out, Lige guy. What's up? Thank you all for being here. We'll get to your tickers here in a few minutes, but we just have a few more in the mailbag. Of course, if you want to get your ticker included in the mailbag, where we cover it earlier in the show, you can send us an email at questions@stockmarketmedia.com. Alfonso, what is up next?
Yeah, let's go international. Let's take a look at the ETF of Switzerland, EWL.
Yeah, I like the international pivot here in the show. Very well done. So Switzerland, let's see what Switzerland holds. So we have 34.5% healthcare, 17.3% financials, 16.8% consumer staples, 10% industrials, and 9% materials. The biggest stock by far is Nestle, the consumer staple company, and then you have Novartis, which is a pharma behemoth. And here, okay, let's get the big picture first. So, long-term uptrend here in Switzerland. A lot of other European bases are just now resolving. Like we're just now getting to the dot-com bubble peak or the great financial crisis peak. But, Switzerland has been making new all-time highs. But I think you really want to trade this one on a weekly time frame. That's how I see it. I think you want to trade this one long if and only if it's above this key pivot high from December and January of 2021 and 2022. That is the key level of interest for the bulls to defend.
Let's call it 53.
$53. That is the line in the sand. If EWL is above that 53 level, I think you can own it. The target of 63, 64. I think that's really the trade here, and I bet there's a nice little dividend yield. And sure enough, yeah, you get 1.8% dividend yield on the EWL. This isn't a speculative growth trade, Alfonso, but this is very well-defined risk versus reward here in the country of Sweden's ETF. What do you think?
I mean, you cannot agree more with you. Maybe if you go to a daily chart, through the momentum, through the 14-day RSI, momentum is it's winning right now. It's pulling back right to that power cycle highs. So we're approaching that key level, that line in the sand, and let's see if if it can hold this big level of former resistance now, trying to turn into support.
This looks like a nasty failed breakout to me, Alfonso. I mean, look at this. So here we have
failed breakout. It will happen. I mean, if price get back below 53, right?
Right. That's exactly right. Yeah, that will confirm the pattern. But
that will confirm the pattern.
All indications, in my opinion, are.
Yeah, what I don't like about this chart is momentum there. It didn't get overbought in the last, in the past few months, not confirming the new highs in price. Now it's crossing the center line in the 14-day RSI. So let's see if it can hold it. But the line in the sand lies at 53. So
I like
it. 53. I think you can give the benefit of those to the bulls, right?
Yeah, I agree. And still a lot of relative strength in Europe right now. So it's not really something that I want to fade. But it just could be messy in the short term. I think we were looking at longer term charts earlier and it looked very strong, but here we are pulling up the 14-day RSI, talking about like a 1 point drop, probably. Like structurally, this thing is setting up very, very nice against that 53 level. Right. Target of that 63 or 64 at 161.8 extension level.
Yep. No, that's right.
I like it.
Yeah.
And this is like thinking of all the European countries. This one has a lot more consumer staples than a lot of the others. So it's probably, thinking big picture, it's probably not bad that the country with the giant consumer staple company is lagging. As a bull, that makes me kind of happy, I guess.
And it's interesting because it's not your common European ETF or European country that it's heavily weighted on industrials, right?
Right. It's not Germany.
Exactly. It's not France. It's not Germany. It's a little bit more defensive in nature, and it moves slowly than the rest. But again, you have that level very well defined, and as long as we're above 53 and the prior cycle highs, I think the bulls are still in control, even though that in the very short term it's looking a little bit weak.
For sure, Alfonso. What do you say we move on?
Yeah, let's do it. Charlotte is asking us about ALAB.
Okay, so this is a
very, it only has like 1 year. Over a year, right? But I like that pattern. I mean, if you put the daily chart, I like that pattern. It's calling in a tight range, and threatening to break out. I'm a big fan of these short-term consolidations.
Yeah, that's a great point you make, Alfonso. This is coiling right at this post-IPO peak from March of 2024, just coiling right there for the last several weeks. So,
I really like it.
If semiconductors are going to continue to work, which they certainly have been, today here making new highs, highest levels since January 24th of this year. But here's semiconductors trying to break out of this base and complete the V. I think A-Lab's going to be resolving higher from this continuation pattern, and I think that's going to lead it back towards these former all-time highs around 148. I think that's the trade here, Alfonso.
Yeah.
95 to 148, 149.
Yeah. Yeah, 148, 149, that area. And I think you can play it, in two different ways. I think if there is enough liquidity in the option change, I will consider to play some short-term call options here, anticipating a breakup from this flag pattern, this tight pattern, and as Sam mentioned before, as long as we're above that IPO high from last year, I like it. And also I want to mention semiconductors on a relative basis, putting a fail top relative to the broader market. They have been leading the way higher again, and I think it's a good development if you want to trade ALBA.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that the semiconductors on a relative basis completing this massive knot atop pattern. It looks an awful lot like crude oil, right, Alfonso? You have this prolonged sideways distribution period. You get that breakdown, but it doesn't really last long. The bears fail miserably, and then it scoops back into the range. And
exactly,
these failed breakdowns continue. They just keep mean reverting higher, and then maybe it eventually breaks out to new highs.
Yeah, that's right. Very well said.
Cool. What else do we have?
Now let's take a look at OTC. Okay, let's say AXAHY. You got it?
Say it one more time.
AXAHY.
Cool. So this must be an OTC.
Yep, that's correct. Let's see.
Let's see what it is. I'm guessing it's a Chinese stock, but no, it's multi-line insurance, so I'm guessing not.
I don't think
from
it's
Paris, France. Insurance stock from Paris, France, $105 billion with a 4.2% dividend yield. Have you heard of this one, Alfonso? This is a new one for me.
Somehow, yeah. I mean, I think first time is in it. The chart speaks for itself at this point.
Who brought this one along, Alfonso? They need a shout out. This is an amazing chart.
Jonathan. Yep.
Jonathan. Wow. Keeping an eye on the Paris insurance industry. I mean, what do you know? This is a monster base breakout. So this one peaked back in May of 2007, had a nasty great financial crisis drawdown, fell 85%, and it's just now repairing all of that damage and breaking out to new all-time highs. So this one looks excellent. I see no reason for this one to not go to 72.5. What do you think, Alfonso?
No, I mean, the risk is very well defined. I love to see these big bases. I know, when we have these big bases and key resistance levels going back, decades, right? Right, like this one. Sometimes it takes time to break out, to absorb all the overhead supply at this resistance zone. But if and when we reclaim with authority above 47, I think the passive little resistance will continue higher, target 72, 72.50, and also keep an eye on the French ETF EWQ. Just resolved higher to new all-time highs. So it's not only this company in specific, but the entire, basically the entire country. So, I like it.
Totally. I love it. Well said, Alfonso. And, the momentum looks pretty good on this breakout, too. I mean, it didn't get overbought on its last pivot high. That's the only thing that stands out to me. So, you want to see this. You want to see it continue to get overbought, I guess. If you're a bull, nothing is better than getting overbought in this trend right now. That is my biggest concern. You're trying to break out of this massive base. There's a big risk that prices just turn sideways here and you get a few whipsaws back and forth. And that's very, very common with these massive base breakouts.
Yeah,
But right now, there's no indication of that. It just looks
a
great.
good confirmation will be, if we see a momentum getting overbought. I think that would be a good confirmation to have more conviction that this breakout, it's happening, right?
Right, exactly. Cool. So I love it. Paris, France, multi-line insurance companies. I mean, the things that come to my desk on a Monday. I love it so much. Thank you for bringing this along, Jonathan. What else do we have, Alfonso?
Hansen is, he wants to see LPLA, a 3 months time frame.
Yeah, sticking with the financials, this is an absolute beast as well. So this is more on the investment bank slash broker side of things, but it's a $30.5 billion company. Very, very large. And I think, yeah, let's stick with the monthly chart here again with these long-term Fibonacci levels. So this one, it was not around for the Great Financial Crisis, came public afterwards, peaked in March of 2014 and bottomed in 2016. That is what I'm fibbing out here. So I think the long-term target is that 140, the 470 level. That is the target. So keep that in mind. 471 and a half. 471 and a half. And then let's drop it down to a daily chart.
I like the daily. I was waiting for you to bring me that coil in the daily.
It's a beautiful coil.
Right around the all-time highs, right around that resistance level, any move above what, 390? I'm buying it,
Yeah.
So
this is a pattern you buy all day, every day. If you're a trader in a bull market, continuation patterns like this are a gift to traders. This is an incredibly strong uptrend, and the market is giving us an opportunity to get involved here. So this is an amazing chart. Shout out whoever brought this one along. This is great stuff. I love it. This is just a consolidation in the context of a long-term trend. I showed you those long-term Fibonacci extension levels. And this one's just right in between two of those hugely important levels. So yeah, I think 390 I think is the level to watch for a breakout. So 390 gets you to 471 and a half. So I like that risk reward an awful lot.
And it's not only, that type pattern, that flag or pennant pattern, right? It's that base from the entire year, right? So it will be a combination of these two consolidations, right? One very short term, combined with with a nice base right around resistance at the cycle at the pivot high from earlier this year. So it is a good combination. 390 for confirmation of a valid breakout from this base and this coil, and it's probably right now one of my favorite charts I'm seeing out there. I love those combinations, right? So it's beautiful. I love this chart.
I just really like continuation patterns, Alfonso. I have a real passion for those. It's such a gift that the market provides us, these strong long-term uptrends, and they just go straight sideways for a few weeks.
Yeah, and
by the resolution of that, it's such a great way to get into a stock.
When volatility consolidate, like this, when it's so compressed and this tight, we can expect a wild move. I mean, we don't know the direction at the end of the day. But if you're leaning into the underlying trend, I think we can give more points of a potential breakout to the upside rather than to the downside, in my opinion, on this name.
Yeah.
So that's the bet. So let's take a look at some of the chat. Let's start with Wavy ELP. Wavy always have very good chart for us.
I bet this is a massive base. That's his specialty. It's these long-term, multi-decade base breakouts. That's the wavy special.
This is a Brazilian company, right?
I am
Pretty sure it is.
Yeah, it was taking a second for my data to come up, but here we are. Long-term chart of the ELP. So this is a $6.5 billion utility stock. Let's see. Yeah. Pretty standard utility. It has about a 5% dividend yield. And sure enough, massive base. I told you that's what we were going to see, and I was right. Wavy bringing the great bases again. So I think long term the target is $12. So I'm going to drop a little 12 up here and drop it down to a daily chart because I like this pattern as well. So here's our target up there at $12, and here it is. It peaked in late 2023, early 2024, and suffered a pretty significant corrective wave. It went from like $9 to $5, and since then it has carved out a pretty nice base, and it's actually starting to resolve that base. So I think that is the trade here, is you want to trade that base breakout. And the peak was, let's call it 9. It's more like 890, but I like a nice round number of 9. So yeah, if this one's above 9, I think you can be long with a target of 12. And you saw that long-term structure earlier. This one's breaking out of a massive base. So I think this one could hit 12 before long. And utilities just in general are very, very strong right now. So I like that theme a lot.
It's a beautiful chart. The 12 represent the highest from 2011, and I like the short-term momentum in the RSI. I think we will see some overbought conditions again. It's a Brazilian name. The Brazilian real, it's making new highs. It just printed a failed move and a failed breakdown against the dollar. So this is another point to ELP and all the Brazilian names. If you see STNE, this is one of the names that we have seen in the past couple of weeks with Steve. I know Steve, it's probably one of his favorite names out there. And, today it's confirming that continuation pattern. So, a lot of these names are looking good, even though the ETF of Brazil, it's not, the best looking one, right? But at individual level, I think you can find some good stocks to have some exposure and some positions for Brazil.
I love the setup in the Stone Co. This one has been a leader in Brazil for some time now, but here it is. Like you said, breaking out of that short-term continuation pattern right at that 61.8 extension level, or retracement level, I should say, like to the very penny right now. So this is super actionable. Huge shout out to Brazil, Alfonso. I like it a lot. We don't talk about Brazil enough around here.
That's true. But right now, I think we'll start talking more about Brazil. I have that feeling.
Yeah, you hear that, chat? Start bringing us more Brazilian stocks to look at.
Give me Brazilian stock.
Anything else to cover, Alfonso? I know we're reaching the end of our show.
Now let's take a look at two more. HN, PRIM. Let's take a look real quick, and then I know Jazz just wanted JD Sport in the London Stock Exchange, no JD.com from last week. So let's try to look him what he wants this time, okay?
Yes, that's funny. All right, so yeah, here's Primorus. This is a, let's see, $4.1 billion engineering and construction stock. I believe they're pretty involved in AI. Like they trade very similar with the whole AI utilities. So like maybe they're building some of these data centers would be my guess. They're like literally actually building the data center. They're not like NVIDIA where they're providing the GPUs for the data center or anything like that, but just the physical location. This is Primorus. And yeah, I mean, what a beast this is, Alfonso. One of the leaders in engineering and construction, right at this 261.8 extension level on this long-term chart. So 72 is the big one for the Primorus, and so is 111. So 72 and 111 are big levels, but if we zoom into the daily chart,
Give me that coil. Give me that coil every day.
yeah, that's exactly right, Alfonso. And I suspect this is coming in right at that 61.8 retracement level. And what do you know? We just gapped above that today. I love to see gaps above key retracement or extension levels. Just you tend to see those before the biggest moves. You know, this could end up being the move, the gap that started a move towards this 91 level, the January peak of this year. So this looks great. Above that 75, I think 91 is coming before long.
This one looks great. You know, and you can drop like a coil, like a pennant there. Yeah. And I think we're breaking out, and again, I think 90 is next. So this is a beautiful, beautiful chart.
Yeah, a lot of continuation patterns on today's show. You notice that, Alfonso? It's almost like that's a theme, you know, a lot of the markets just carving out these continuation patterns as they're completing their Vs to new all-time highs.
Exactly. It's been the pattern I have seen all day. I've been talking to Strauss about these patterns, everything looking good, and, you know, more highs than new lows. That's for sure. And these continuation patterns, you know, resolving in the direction of the underlying trend. Which it makes sense.
Almost like we were expecting that, Alfonso.
That's true. I mean, but it's happening. So yeah. It's a powerful combination.
Yeah, it definitely is. I love it. All right, what's this last one? It was JD.
JD Sports from the London Stock Exchange. Let's see if we can find it here.
This is it. JD Sports Fashion. So we try to look at U.S. listed stocks usually on the show. Maybe there's an OTC version of this, is what I'm thinking. You know, So here it is, JDSPY. So this is a $5 billion retail stock, and it looks terrible.
It looks terrible, but I will go with the in the London Stock Exchange stock to see, you know, the real pattern in the price real quick. You know, it has been carving out a monster top. 60 is the big level. Right now we're at 75.
Oof! Wow, great top there.
And it's a great top. I mean,
this is really nice, actually. I'm glad we're looking at this, Alfonso. Big tops in Europe. So something like that. I think you really want to see this one get below 62 to really resolve this top.
Yeah,
any size resolution would close below that, and then you can really start to get wild with this one. Think about downside targets like this one. Let's see. It's like virtually at that 61.8 retracement. Yeah, that's not all that helpful. So maybe the VWAP from this low also comes in around that 61.8. Yeah, I think all signs tend to point towards lower prices for the JD Sports. Massive top, a big, beautiful top. This is a great one to end it on, Alfonso. We know we had a lot of bullish continuation patterns that we covered during today's show, but to finish it with a massive multi-decade distribution pattern, That's just a great way to end the show. So I like it. I like it a lot.
It is a good way. It is a good way.
Did you have a favorite chart from today's show?
Oh man, I mean, I will go with LPLA.
Yeah.
That, yeah, that combination of of a nice base, strong primary uptrend. When you zoom in, you have that coil right at the former highs, and I think that's a good combination. And maybe if you want to give it a shot and jump this breakout, I mean, I think you can do it. But 390, it's the big level in this name. So keep that in mind. So this one is my favorite. Which one is yours?
I'm going to have to go with the cores. The Bitcoin miner with the highest short interest ever. And, this one is relative strength inside of the Bitcoin miners. So if you're going to get freaky with the miners, there's no one better than Core Scientific. So 1170 there. I also love how well the risk is defined there at that 1170 level, leaning against that extension level. And yeah, plenty of upside. I think I'm going to buy some call options in the cores.
Okay. Okay, I like it.
Cool. All right, this was a fun show. A lot of good charts, a lot of nice flags. Wavy brought some big bases. We saw the big base in the Paris, France insurance stock.
That was awesome. A good chart too.
That was awesome.
We can complain today.
This was a lot of fun. I appreciate everyone being here in the chat today. I see you, H. Chan, Mr. Zerby, Colin, Chris, Elijah, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm sorry if we didn't get to your ticker. If you want us to cover it next time we're here live on the same channel at the same time next Monday, send us an email at questions@stockmarketmedia.com and we will put your ticker in the mailbag. Until then, have a good week, everybody. Happy Monday. Enjoy your Juneteenth. The market is going to be closed on Thursday, Alfonso. I know, like the futures markets aren't going to stop for this American holiday, but we're going to quit trading our speculative growth stocks on Thursday. So I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, anything you're looking forward to this week, Alfonso?
It's going to be a busy week. I just moved to Edinburgh, so, very excited. So I have to, buy some things, go to the grocery stores, that's how my week look like.
Nice. Well, get it done, Alfonso. Try to get settled down and enjoy your week. Thank you for being here, everybody. We will talk to you again later. Adios.
Thank you, everybody.